welcome back. I'm hoping if you've watched the Bullet Syndrome video, this is a nice little palate cleanser. I realised I hadn't done Jaws. I'd watched it recently. I thought I should do a video on Jaws because Jaws is terrific. Jaws, it's just viewed as terrific, and I think people just leave it at that now. Yeah, it's a masterpiece. It's great, and don't talk about it much. It's just like, yeah, it's obviously great, so we don't even need to discuss it. It's like, no, you should do a video on Jaws. Jaws is such a good film, and it's so many characteristics that we need in films nowadays that isn't there, like character, suspense, story, like gradual escalation rather than blowing everything up every 10 minutes. It's got everything going for it, and it's so well done. So I thought I'd make a video with Jaws. This probably won't be very long because it's just saying how good Jaws is, but I thought it'd be good to do a video though. So Jaws obviously was based on a Peter Benchley novel. It was a big bestseller. If you ever read the novel, you know it's not that good. The idea's good. The characters set up is good, but it's not well written. It's pretty much it's a bit of a slog. It's a book that's about 3 times as long as it needs to be. It just feels like it should be a shorter novel, and it's not. So I would recommend you straight away, if you're curious, do not read the book. You're not going to get anything from it. I did that mistake when I was a teenager. It's not, even as a teenager, and I read some shocking books. This one, even then, I was like, it's not that good. This is really not that good. So it's a waste of money to read the book. Just watch the film. The film takes all the good stuff in the book, throws out all the trash. It's a much more streamlined thing. Basically, they had the book, and they knew it was a good story. And it was like, who do you find to actually direct this film? And they went for Spielberg, who was very young then. He'd made Sugar Land Express, but more importantly, he'd made Duel, which was released, which was made as he'd done some TV episodes. He made Duel, which was a TV movie of the week, which had been released in Europe because it was so good. It was a real good suspense thing about a guy getting chased in a car by a truck. It was a suspense story with an everyman character, and it showed his real skill. It was like this guy should be making movies. Why is he in TV? And he'd done a low budget, so it showed a real skill. So he was promoted to movies with Sugar Land Express, which is a very good film, but hadn't done anything. No, it was a young couple on the run. It was probably too good-natured for the cynical time it was released, and it just didn't do as well. It was a much nicer movie than it could have been because it was a bit people on the run. And I think people want some more cynical, like Bonnie and Clyde, and it wasn't that. So it didn't do well. No one knew what to do with it. But they could tell Spielberg had talent. It was like, what do you put him into? And Zanuck Brown, who was producer of Sugar Land Express, had Jaws. And they just brought Spielberg to Jaws and said, like, do this. This is just do what you did with Duel for this. So he came aboard and started making Jaws. And he started to shoot it on the sea. And all hell broke loose. But it's one of those situations which has been talked about a lot, is the fact that the things that went wrong in production helped the production ultimately. Because the shark didn't work, so you couldn't really show the shark like the way you did with the truck in Duel, where the truck was this omnipresent monster that was always coming at you. And then they had to be more subtle because the shark didn't work and it looked fake when it came out above water. So Spielberg just did the fin. The fin was always coming, and the John Williams music just made it a threat. And then he invested in the characters so that you actually cared about the characters. So by the time you got to the actual action, you were invested. So all the delays meant they were stuck in Martha's Vineyard for like months, going way over budget, trying to get all these technical problems sorted. But in between then, they actually started making sure that the characters were right. And they had 3 really good actors. You had Robert Shaw as the show-offy character Quint to the fisherman. You had Roy Scheider as everyman character, and you had Richard Dreyfuss, the character in between. He's a bit of a show-off character, but he's also a bit more everyman than Quint. So you had these 3 guys who were going to take on the shark. So he spent the first half of the movie getting to know them. And he did it very gradually. He started off with the Brody character, being Roy Scheider, who's very much an actor who has a very kind of common ground feel to him. He's someone you look at and say, yeah, he's lived a life. He's been through stuff. And he's been this guy who used to work in New York, and now he's in Amity as the sheriff who's in charge of everything. And Scheider had just come off French Connection, which was a massive hit, and he played a New York cop. So this background helped the film. And it's a slow build watching this guy who's an urban guy who's actually dealing with all these small town issues that are not that much of a problem ultimately. With people smashing up a gate or something, doesn't matter. He's the only detective there, and he's got like a deputy, and the rest of them come on during the summer, and then they are laid off during the periods because they don't need many cops. And when the first shark attack happens, which the picture behind me, the iconic shark attack that opens the picture, he has to spend the first half of the movie dealing with the politicians trying to cover it up because they're a tourist area and tourists get scared of sharks if they're coming for the beaches. And that's the first thing, is like the suspense of covering it up and then also watching him slowly go mad as he realises this thing's out of control and he's the one sane man in this madhouse. And it's kind of almost like a Twilight Zone thing of this slow paranoid character getting more and more wound up, and he doesn't trust the water in the first place, and it's just a sense, very identifiable things, is like someone is like, something's wrong here, I need to sort it out, but I can't. And it's just everyday frustrations, and Spielberg's very good at ratcheting up the suspense, but it sticks you with Brody throughout the whole film ultimately. It's always from Brody's point of view. In the first half, you're slowly watching him work it out, like, I don't know how to deal with this, but I have to deal with it, and I have to deal with all these politicians, and the slow events happening, like, they make sure he opens the beach again, someone dies, and he's got that sense of paranoia before that even happens. And then when the kid dies, he's got the guilt, and he's slapped by the mother of the kid. And it's a slow escalation as this situation gets more and more out of control. They think they've found the shark and killed the shark, and they haven't. And it's this desperation of the people that's really important in this film. I mean, people think that Jaws is a big action horror movie, and the first half of the movie is on land with just creeping out of the water every so often. It's just the paranoia of what's out there. We're on an island, what's out there. And it's a slow escalation of terror and little shark shocks that really makes it work. It's because the shark didn't work, so the second half they had to really do all these scenes and rewrite them and get them just right. And that's kind of nuance of character that really makes the film. Of course, that progresses to much more action in the second half. But by the time you get there, you've been introduced to Brody's paranoia slowly. Then Richard Dreyfuss shows up as a shark expert about the time where they're hunting for the shark the first time and all these amateurs have come about. So he comes in and gives you exposition, but as you get to know him as well, he becomes a likeable character who's there to actually deal with the shark. He's like even though he has like a fun facade cover, he's actually very serious what he does. He likes people at ease, but when it's serious, he'll be serious. So that's a nice little thing where Dreyfuss before had been more of a comedy character, but they give him this serious side as well, which really grounded him. And which usually is one thing with Dreyfuss is if you give him a bit more of grounding, he tends to come off better because he is such a big actor that he needs a kind of grounding to get the right balance usually. And it works really well here because he's dealing with a serious situation, but he also has enough humour to make sure he's not quite as intense as Scheider is. So you've got a nice balance. Then when Robert Shaw comes in, once all hell's broken loose and they realise they have to actually get the shark, he's so much broader, but because it's been so grounded that first hour, he fits in perfectly. If he came in like that straight away, it would be just too much. But because you've had that first hour and the situation is so intense, by the time he has an early moment where he has a nice little speech, then later on, when he comes in full bung, you're already in the situation. I mean, Brody's son has been attacked by the shark and has survived, is in shock. The audience has been kind of, the nerves have been jangled by the time like Quentin comes in, so you're actually up for him bringing some more life to the film because you kind of need it, otherwise it's a bit intense. So the film's really good at that thing of knowing how to use the actors and how to when to bring them in, when to use them best, and setting them up, which is what separates a good director from a bad one. A bad director just throws stuff at the screen like Michael Bay does. A good director slowly plans it out and builds slowly. I mean, one thing with Spielberg is he gets a lot of trash for being too sentimental, but he is very good at the build. He does know how to build films and slowly introduce things, not just throw stuff at you. And when he does throw stuff at you, it's still well choreographed. I mean, look at Indiana Jones films. He knows what he's doing, obviously, but he really knows what he's doing in this film. This is one of his best films. So by the time you get to the adventure side of it, which is the second half of the film, when they're out in the boat, they're having to bond with each other, even though they don't like each other that much. But they go through experiences of trying to get a shark and realise that even though they had all this equipment doesn't mean anything. This shark's bigger than they thought. This shark's more brutal than they thought, and it's much more dangerous than they thought. And it's going to take them a lot more effort to kill the shark than even they thought. And it's this slow build at the expectation of the shark. Like, you know as much as they know, and they keep on getting finding out more and more, and it's just a slow escalation of this is more dangerous than thought. They should not have come out in this mission at all. By the time you're in the last third, they're in over their heads. And it's great because they're still going to plug away no matter what, and that makes them sympathetic. It's like, they're going to kill this thing, but they're in over their heads. And then they're slowly bonding with each other and realising each other's strengths and the fact that they're all serious about this one mission, even though they've got their own flaws. You know, it just creates this slow suspense. But also the thing is, in the second half, the direction, even though there's all these problems, the direction floating through the water, going around the boat, and seeing what everyone's doing in the boat, it's so well done, and you've always got this sense of this presence around them. The either can see or can't see. It's always there. The shark's always there, even though it's not always there. You just get this creation of what's been built in the first half of the movie. This presence outside the land area has now become something that's dominating throughout the entire movie, and there's no escape from it. They've gone to its area, so they've actually gone from a safe area to something much more dangerous intentionally, and it's like, it's just a really terrific build. Now, of course, we've all seen the film, is watching this, but I'm just talking about my perspective of watching it, is this sense of how good it is because it's just this slow escalation of threat that's similar, no, some ways to Die Hard. Die Hard is that same thing of, it's a slow build, and by the time you get to the actual real action, you're being with the character for so long, you're with them, you know, in this adventure. This Jaws is the same feeling. That's why people still watch it. It's not because of the explosions, because you're with the characters, and the characters are so good, and you're so with their struggle for this bloody shark. And it's the little things that really impact you. It's the Scheider chugging this stuff over the side and having to just be grumpy because he's been treated badly, and then the shark just pops up. You know, and you need a bigger boat. It's the big famous line from that. And you've got Dreyfuss wandering around the ship a lot of time with his little toys that are annoying Shaw immensely. And them setting each other up all the time until they have that great scene on the boat, the Indianapolis speech, and them talking about their experiences and things. And again, it's unforced. I mean, there's a lot of writing involved in this film. Spielberg brought in John Milius to do a couple of things for Quint. They had the writer, whose name I can't remember, who was playing one of the supporting characters. He was there all the time inventing all these characters. Probably that's why he's annoyed that Milius got all the credit, even though he was the one that did all the groundwork and all the grunt work for all these other characters and getting everything else ready. And Milkman did a little bit of rewriting, he got all the credit. But the thing is, I can understand because, I mean, all the character work's great. They brought in all the actors and made them feel very much community-based. They brought in, I think they use a lot of people from that community, so they got the little slangs right. So it feels like a community, dealing with a problem rather than a Hollywood thing. Everyone looks right in this film. Everyone thinks, everyone just feels right in the world. So even when you get someone bigger like Robert Shaw, he's like the needed kind of movie star presence you need at a certain point. But everything feels right. And when you get those show-off speeches for Shaw, which you really need. Apparently it was a mention of it in the first script, Howard Sackler. Milius was asked by Spielberg to rewrite it and give it some... just expand it because it wasn't big enough. And he apparently did a massive speech and sent it to Spielberg. That was too long. And then apparently Shaw cut it down because Shaw saw the speech and said, this is really good but it's too long, because Shaw was a playwright as well, and he just said, okay, we need to cut down a little bit and I can sort it. And then he sorted it. And so he had a kind of weird combination of suggestion with one person, great blur of tons of words, and then it's shaping. And that's what it feels like this whole film's like that. There's a lot of, and lots of different talents. Like Spielberg tried to prove himself. You had Werner Fields as his editor, holding it down on location so they could always see what they needed as they went. You had the John Williams score, everybody rewriting each other, everybody rewriting, getting their parts right because they were in the boat for so long, and just getting a lot of nuances of irritation and things with each other. So a lot of time you're on the boat walking out. I mean, even though you've got shots of going around the boat and things, a lot of it's just on the boat watching them, seeing a shark in distance, things, or seeing a fin in distance. It really creates this sense of threat and danger for characters you like. It is just such a well-made film. That's the big thing about talking about Jaws. Same way talking about something like Die Hard, where it's like, it's so well done, it's like everything works. It's like, this was just a lot of good talented people coming together. Some people have been there for a while, some people have been there all the way through, some people popping in at Milius and popping out, other people, the other writer who was there for the whole time. You know, you've got all these different talents all coming together, and you've all the actors really making their mark on the film. It's just one of those things, it's a miracle. They all came together, they all worked. You know, one of those miracle films. Spielberg had quite a few of them in that era, which was quite amazing. He had quite a run. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon with another one, but this is my look at Jaws. It's a bit overdue. Probably years overdue, but I finally get around to it. Right, bye for now.